welcome to our It's Your Business show. It is a Monday, and sometimes not all the people show up that are supposed to. But after a long weekend, and we applaud Raven Hoffman, Midwest Regional Director for the National Association of Women in Construction. They hosted people. A lot of it was Zoom, 18 chapters in the Dakotas, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, and Wisconsin. And we're all looking for a way to take care of the people that want homes, want to remodel, all of those things that make sense. Now, in this segment, this young lady is filling in for Tony Bachman, but she says, I know nothing about National Association of Women in Construction. But I think you would admit that if they can help and provide some support for housing, for remodeling, something that will help flow the home building industry, it's a good thing.
Yes, I would agree that it is a good thing. And I say that because when I looked at the numbers this morning, we currently have 206 active homes in the Sioux Falls and surrounding area, and that is between 125,000 up to 1.9 million. So,
what would it have been the last couple of years, roughly? If we had, you said 125?
No, 206.
206.
But
okay.
Over that range of 125,000 to 1.9 million.
So what would you guess? We'd be 2 or 3 times that normally?
I would say at least 2 or 3 times that.
So
I mean, I remember the days when I first got into real estate, we were up over 1,000 active homes.
So what does that do to those people that are buying?
Well, it limits them, unfortunately, because the demand is so high, but the supply isn't there. So we're seeing all these people, trying to figure out with their lender, what can we do, and does it make sense to go the new construction route? But builders can't hardly keep up either.
They can't get the supplies.
They can't get the supplies. Labor shortages have affected many of them. So when you look at it from that perspective, these poor buyers are just struggling every day.
If you're a seller, does that give you an advantage?
It does give you an advantage, but the fear is a lot of sellers say, well, what happens when I sell my house? Where do I go? And I understand that everyone has that, uncertainty that lies ahead, and the interest rates have been creeping up rapidly over the last few months, and, that drives down their buying power. Someone who was able to spend $400,000 6 months ago, now they're down to $350,000, just because of the interest rate hike. We were seeing 2.5% to 3% just under a year ago, and now we're up over 5%, and in some cases, first-time home buyers over 6% interest rate.
So Tony is at a conference in Boston, is that correct?
That is correct.
So what is he learning now, Coldwell Banker?
Well, I would assume that he is learning some of the new technology that they're going to be rolling out here, and, getting a good feel for, well, first of all, meeting some people that also represent Coldwell Banker nationally, which will be good for us because Sioux Falls is a very desired place for people to move. So meeting all these agents from across the country will only benefit us if those people are willing to move to South Dakota. We have a big push right now with moving up with TBG, moving to Sioux Falls, moving to South Dakota. That's kind of been our push, is attracting those buyers from out of state.
Brent Adney brags about Tony. Brent, of course, is the housing leader as far as South Dakota housing is concerned. And he is always saying, Tony is right on track. And I said, it's not just Tony, it's his people that really know what's going on. So if Brent is listening today, what would you tell him about this past weekend, the past 10 days, as to what you've seen in the marketplace, so that he likes to have that, because he's out talking to a lot of banks right now around the state and around the country.
What I have seen is the people that I've been working with, buyers-wise, have been almost on an impulse saying we need to find a property and we need to find it now before the interest rates go up again. I heard the feds are going to meet again May 4th or something like that. And they're fearing...
That's next week.
Yeah, they're fearing the interest rate will push them up even more and limit their buying power, like I said. So I've been scrambling the last week trying to find my buyers a house to lock in their interest rate.
Now, Tony always has this guy that brings along two cameras, okay, and I have to move the mic to one side or have to move it to the other. But he's joining us this morning because he's out in the field as well.
Yes.
He is learning. What do you suppose he's going to tell us? And you better introduce him.
Well, his name is Daris Reynolds. He's been with the Tony Bachman Group, I think, about a year and a half now, almost 2 years.
Almost 2.5 years.
2.5 years? Oh, my.
Yeah, time has
flies.
just been gone.
You missed
I
it.
just ignore the COVID year. That doesn't even count.
So what would you tell us about the marketplace? You're out. You're getting to see a little different buyer, seller than perhaps our friend Rebecca is this morning.
So the clients that I'm working with, even open houses, all of that, it's still moving. Even with the high winds we had this weekend, we still had a bunch of people come out to one of the acreages we did. One of our higher-end luxury homes, we still had a lot of people. So even with the bad weather, people are still motivated, wanting to go out and look for their home. One of the things I know Tony has talked about a lot is we really want to practice and go with preaching to our clients the whole market, what to expect when they're looking, interest rates, and just keep moving forward and educate them as best as we can.
So those that are listening to their parents or grandparents who said this is the way it is, probably this isn't the way it is. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree.
When you look at that, and it was like, well, you never pay full price. Well, it's kind of a different marketplace than it was 10, 20, 30
Yeah,
years ago.
you may not pay full price. You're going to pay over full price.
And who would have thought that was the case?
I don't know if anyone really saw the market going this direction this quickly. You know, we've seen over the past years an increase in values and an increase in demand, but I would say over the last 2 years, that increase was so rapid that a lot of people couldn't wrap their heads around it. Banks were trying to figure out ways to help first-time home buyers, and they've come up with a couple programs that have been extremely helpful. But on the flip side, you're paying a little higher interest rate. So you kind of have to take that balance of, is it really important to you to buy a first home, and at what cost are you willing to do so?
And that interest rate thing, when you start talking, well, it was at 2, now it's at 3, now it's at 4, and they're saying how terrible that is. But some of the old timers, going back a generation or two, are going to say, we remember when we were happy to get under 10.
I was going to say, I remember my mom telling me, well, my first interest rate was 13%, but they were also paying $110,000 for a house.
Absolutely.
So, again, we're seeing high prices, and I don't want to say high interest rates because relative to 13%, they're not high at all. And actually, when I first got in the business, they were at 5%, and people thought that was a good deal, a good interest rate. And then they went to 4%, and everybody started getting excited, and then we saw 3%, and it was just that what sent the whole real estate world into a tizzy almost.
How about on your side? What are you seeing out there? Because you're dealing, I'm guessing, with a lot of younger people. Obviously,
Correct.
all generations. But
Yeah.
for the most part, the younger people are saying, how do we compete with these people that are a little older that can put more towards it and can pay more for a house than we can?
So what I usually do with my clients is when we're talking about moving forward in these first-time home buyer homes and competing is, a home is only worth what you're willing to buy it for and what someone's willing to sell it for. And we sit there, we make sure we go through everything with the lender, we know what their max is and what they can perform on comfortably. Because you don't want to be house rich and cash poor. And when we're going through that, we're looking at homes, making sure that if it needs some work or if it's turnkey, whatever we need to do, we just talk them through it. And the best thing that we can do is let them put in their offer. We coach them the best we can, but ultimately it is their decision. We have seen people waive inspections. Don't really agree with that, but just because you should know what you're getting into. And that's really important because buying a home is one of the biggest investments you can do in your life. So as long as we cover all the grounds, they make their decision, and we just put the offer in and see what happens.
Daris Reynolds, Rebecca with us this morning. Last name, how do you say that?
Ohayon.
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 Like a bale of hay.
Yeah. I mean, sure. That's how you have to remember it, Bill. That's okay.
Whatever it takes. You know, we do what we can. So those people that are out there this morning, buyers, what are you telling them?
Basically, what I'm telling them is we're in a position where, you know, we go look at a home, and unfortunately, some of the buyers are getting extremely tired of putting in offers, losing out on homes. So when we do find a home after putting in multiple offers and losing out, that's when they really sit down and say, okay, what can we do differently to be more competitive? And like Daris said, some are waiving inspections. If it's on a newer home, generally you're not going to.
All right, waiving inspections. That's putting yourself at risk?
Yes.
And banks are going to approve that?
Banks do approve that. I think does VA require inspections? They require some inspections, at least.
Well, the VA and FHA will still have the bank appraiser go out, and they can still call things like peeling paint, cracks in foundations, stuff like that.
What about those that are sitting there saying, I hold the cards, everything's good? Should they take a buyer that is out of town, way out of town, if they got a lot more money, or somebody that's got a local banker here that's ready to play and it's a local game?
You know, that's a very good question, and we've had that situation come up where I represented a seller and we had different offers. One was local, one had a home to sell in Pennsylvania, I believe, and my seller just felt more comfortable taking an offer knowing they were local, working with a local lender, and the house that they were selling is here in town. So I can watch, you know, I know the market here. I don't know the market in Pennsylvania, and I'm trusting an agent that I've never worked with a day in my life.
So, dumb question, do you trust an agent in Pennsylvania, Delaware, or Idaho?
One can hope that you should be able to, but I like to know who I'm doing business with. So, and I had that conversation with my seller. Ultimately, it's their decision. But when we have an agent here in Sioux Falls that I've worked with before and I know, you know, who they are, how they do business, it makes it a much easier transition, in my opinion. But
dumb question. A lot of people say I'm smart enough to sell my house or buy my house alone without a professional. What would you tell them?
If you're a buyer, I would say you're crazy, because a listing agent, likely if they have multiple offers on the table, they don't want to work with a buyer that isn't being represented. They're going to go with an agent, you know, a buyer that's being represented by an agent. A seller, I would say, are you leaving money on the table by trying to market it on your own? And do you know everything that a seller has to do? It's not just put your house on Zillow and that's the end. I mean, there's a full-on process that I would say 95% of sellers don't know everything they have to do. And when we look at, you know, lawsuits that come up, I want to say they say 99% of lawsuits come from for sale by owners.
Daris, from your side, you bring these two cameras in.
Yep.
What do you do with what you're shooting? I'm scared to ask.
So I record our show, and I also do a lot of the videography and editing for our team's videos, putting information out there. So it's been a learning experience because Derek left us about a year and a half ago, and he used to do it, and he took me under his wing, and he showed me how to do the ropes, and it's just been a smooth thing ever since.
Well, I think it's important that you guys are on our show, but I think it's important as well that you shoot pictures. You shoot something that people can actually watch and see how Bill Zortman was over here shaking and wondering what I was going to do next. But you know what? We're at the end of the first two segments.
It worked out. It worked out great.
Yeah, it did.
How do they reach the Tony Bachman Group?
Well, you can reach us via phone. I don't even know Tony's phone number by heart, to be honest with you. But you could call me, 605-310-5611.
What was that again?
605-310-5611. We are located at 800 South 7th Avenue in Suite N, close to downtown here. You can reach us at the Tony Bachman Facebook page, I think it's Coldwell Banker Tony Bachman Group. And our website is TonyBachmanGroup.com.
We have a group that are watching in Boston, and from Tony. Great job today. I just lost my position as a keynote speaker to Rebecca and Daris. Listening in on TuneIn Radio from Boston.
Thank you, Tony.